What do we need to do as men to create a culture of men where help seeking is encouraged and normal?
You become more godlike when you choose to feel and when you choose to ask for help.
Yeah, today's conversation is one that I think a lot of people, especially young men, deeply need right now. And we're talking about it in light of Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, which is June. So we're creating here at World Vision Canada a space to kind of talk about masculinity, faith, loneliness, and what it actually means to become emotionally grounded in a world that, as many of us know, is just rewarding performance over authenticity quite often. So I'm especially excited because this conversation isn't just one perspective, but we have Brayden joining us, who is passionate about seeing young men beat anxiety and build confidence in his content on social media. And this has resonated with so many young men. We also have a registered psychotherapist, Lewis, here to help unpack some of these ideas from a clinical and emotional perspective as well. So, we are going to start off with some icebreaker, more rapid fire questions to warm things up a little bit. This is by no means light questions, but just kind of want to get your initial responses. Don't think too much, but just kind of give your quick thoughts on some of these. But the first question is, I would love to hear one word from you guys, one word that comes to mind when you think about men's mental health.
Exhilarating.
Hey, great word.
I would say fascinating. Yeah.
Okay. Next question is, what is one thing social media gets completely wrong about masculinity?
That it's not masculine to feel emotions. I would say
Hmm.
that is completely wrong
Yeah.
and very unhealthy. So
Yeah, I would say probably um that that it's one dimensional, that masculinity is certain specific. Yeah, one dimensional. I think it's much more layered and complex than
Next question. We're getting the wheels turning. What is
yeah.
something that men often feel misunderstood from women as it relates to their emotions?
I would say that kind of like Brayden was saying before, that that we don't feel things deeply if they don't see it.
mm,
I
Mm.
think, yeah, I think for a lot of men the challenge is the expression of it, not the experience of it.
I think, and to bounce off Lewis's point, I think men are afraid to. They may feel like if emotions are expressed, that they're therefore seen as weak, or they can't be this masculine man for a family or for this girl or their wife or partner or whoever it may be. And to be honest, I think feeling it and expressing those emotions makes you more masculine. I think it just brings out your full, true, present self
Right.
when you can choose to feel all parts of you rather than push or cover or hide.
Yeah. So good, guys. These are great already. Okay, my last rapid fire question. What is one comment or compliment that men rarely receive but deeply remember? This could be from anyone.
Here's one that I remember, and I feel like most guys, when guys do the little things, well, we'll take on a date or something. For example, I'm in the dating relationship coaching aspect a lot, and so when guys do the little things for girls, that's on their date or they're in a relationship, and a girl notices and just says thank you, simply acknowledging the fact of what they have done to try and go a little bit more above and beyond for that person. It's not even a very specific compliment. It's just simply acknowledging the fact of saying thank you
Right.
I saw you, I noticed you, and I noticed what you did for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think is something that men will deeply remember. At least I do. So
I would say probably um being told that they're seen, like I see you. It's not explicitly a compliment, but I think um making men feel seen and known, I think is important in a world that values accomplishment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thanks, guys. Okay, are we feeling warm? Should we dive in?
So hard. Yeah,
Perfect.
I'm ready. Let's jump in the
Okay.
deep end.
let's
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it.
yeah. Okay. Well, this is directed specifically for Lewis. I think it would be helpful to understand a bit more about your clinical background and what initially drew you towards working specifically with young men.
Yeah, so I'm a registered psychotherapist, like Megan was saying, and I think I found that I think it was through experience. I worked with a ton of different clients, and I just really found that um I connected with men, like other men and younger men, and that work just brought me life. And in a lot of ways too, it helped me with growing in my own journey, in my own exploration, in my own discovery of um, mind, heart, soul, and how to manage and lead our internal life. So I think it's been a journey of growing in myself, and then as I learn and discover things in my own process, being able to give it away in the context of psychotherapy. So it's been fun.
So good. Yeah, we're happy to have you on.
Yeah.
Brayden, what stood out to me about your content is that it doesn't just speak to, confidence on a surface level, but a lot of it feels rooted in identity and purpose and faith, and there's a depth there, especially in a generation where a lot of young men are quietly struggling. What kind of got you into this? Like, what was that, first drive to share your first post?
To be honest, it was God, and it was it was not me. It was not something that I wanted to do. I got Instagram for the first time back in October when I decided to make my first post. Like I was not a
Wow.
social media guy. I was not familiar with that world, but I had been a coach for about probably 9 months or so, working for a couple of different people and businesses. And I started getting all these feelings and impressions like it had changed my life, and so that's what ultimately led me to want to be a coach in the first place. And I started feeling like I need to get this to more people. Like more people need this information. Like this is
Right.
not, I feel like with things that change our lives, we're not content with keeping it
Mhm.
to ourselves. And
Right.
so I was like, I just need to get this to more people. But I was like, the only way that I know how to get this to more people is where the people are, which is online and on social
Right.
media, which is where I was not. And so I was like, God, if you're going to make this happen, then I'm going to need some strings pulled and I'm going to need some help here. And of course, he always does. And there were friends and people placed in my life that had those connections and had those resources. And it's just taken off from there. And God is so good, and I give him all the glory. But he was ultimately, that's when I started. And that's the reason why I started posting in the first place. It was like, people just need to hear this.
Right.
It's just grown from there.
Yeah, so cool. So are you saying October, like October 2025, this started?
Correct.
Wow, that's very recent.
Yeah,
That's awesome. And it just shows if God wants something to happen, he's going to make it happen, and timing does not matter.
totally.
So
Totally.
cool. Yeah. Lewis, from your perspective as a psychotherapist, why do you think that these conversations around, masculinity, emotional health feel especially important right now?
Yeah, and just hearing kind of your story, Brayden, too, I think that points to such a deep hunger in our world, in a age where there's so much information for
Right.
people who like real people who are able to take insights from these insights that aren't accessible to them and make it easily understandable and relatable. Like there's such a, I think men are hungry. In an era of information, I think men are hungry for insight and revelation about, you know, like the things that are real and authentic. And yeah, Brayden, you do a great job with, yeah, with making all that authentic and relatable to people. So it's not, yeah, not a surprise at all that it's all taken off. It's, we need knowledge translators in our generation at this time. So yeah, just props to you for your work, Brayden. It's yeah,
Thank you.
it's amazing.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So good. Yeah, Brayden, in one of your recent videos, you mentioned, that concept of being a thermostat versus a thermometer. Can you explain that a little bit more and
Yeah.
what that means, I guess, emotionally?
So a lot of times I feel like in a world where there's a lot that's out of our control, it's very easy to play victim and to say that an outward circumstance therefore is creating my response or my reaction to whatever it is going on. And it's right that there are a lot of things that are out of our control, but if a circumstance is out of your control, the only thing within your control is how you respond, how you think about the circumstance. So in a simple analogy, because that's how my brain works, thermostat and thermometer, it's if a circumstance has come upon me in which I have no control, I can choose to be a thermometer. In a sense, a thermometer will just read the temperature that it is on the outside. It will simply tell you if it's hot or cold. It just gets put in an environment and it doesn't change. It just responds to the environment. It reads however it is. If you're a thermostat, you can get put into an environment and said, if it's hot outside and I want it cold, I'm going to turn it down. If it's cold inside and I want it hot, I'm going to turn it up. So be a thermostat, not a thermometer. If there are things that are outside of your control, be a thermostat and you be the one to decide how you want to respond to the circumstance or the situation. You be the one to control how you feel and how you process and regulate your own emotions rather than letting an outside circumstance be the one to dictate how I feel.
Right.
And so I'm very huge about being an agent to act. I think that we all have that ability. And I think that stems right in here, right in our amazing brains that have been such a gift that God has given us. And so yeah, I'm big about that. Being a thermostat, not a thermometer. Don't just be don't just take whatever circumstances are as is, but you can be someone that can go and do and make an impact and change the way that you go out and respond to the things that happen to you.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and that just listening to you talk on like that really requires a lot of emotional awareness of yourself, just being able to actually see the environment, notice the environment, call out the environment that you're in, and then just kind of choosing to make that change. Yeah, I'm curious, Lewis, what your thoughts are on that.
I think our our ability to lead our internal lives has such a big role, like Brayden was saying, on our ability to influence the world around us. I think when we aren't stewarding what's happening internally with diligence and effectively, that's when I think we fail at being, um, yeah, being the kind of men that we're called to be the influence rather than to just, go along with what's going on around us.
Right.
Phenomenal. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm starting to kind of think of like as you guys are talking, the difference between emotional strength and emotional suppression.
Yeah.
Can you kind of get me into like what's the difference between the two and how does that relate to this?
I'd say emotional suppression would be more of the denial of emotions, and the inability to articulate and express emotions, whereas emotional strength is actually resilience,
Right.
the ability to go through circumstances and um, remain in control of your emotions, remaining yeah, in a place of I'm still in the driver's seat of I get my internal life and out of the circumstance. So that's what I would say. This is, yeah.
Yeah, and I would completely agree with Lewis. I think it requires a lot more strength and effort to channel emotions in a positive direction, therefore, through regulating and processing them. It's very easy to run, hide, cope, or turn to something else to simply numb an emotion. That's easy, but it's harder in the long run. I had one of my best friends, he told me one time, he said, the easy is hard and the hard is easy. And what he meant by that was it's easy, again, when we talk about emotions, to run, to hide, to cope, to numb, to sit with the easy now and to not process them, to not feel them, to not name them and call them out and sit with them.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that lead to? You know, if we continue on in this cycle and this pattern, it leads to a lot of buildup. It influences, I think, a common misconception is that it's just me that's affected. But when emotions are held back and things are not processed, when we talk about in the context of relationships,
Right.
there are totally things that are influenced there by how you interact and act with and respond to others. So it's not just affecting you, which I think is another common misconception,
Right.
but it eventually becomes harder. So you took easy and it made it harder. Whereas if we take hard to feel and to process, to name and to call out and to feel, hard becomes easy. It allows me to experience more in full the beauty of my life and the relationships that are before me. And so
Yeah.
please go hard and it will go to easy rather than
Yeah.
easy, which leads to hard.
Right. Wow, I love that. I've never thought of it that way, but it's so true. And you could put that into so many different contexts too. Yeah, that's
True.
helpful.
Mm.
Um, so as a woman, just from my observation, there's often a drive for self-improvement among men, which is healthy, but then when do you see that becoming unhealthy or addictive, or I guess I would say like motivated by like feeling unworthy or out of like a self-rejection?
Great question. There are a couple of thoughts that come to my mind really quick, and I'm curious to know what your guys' thoughts are about this. This is something that I've wrestled with again when we talk about performance versus worth,
Hmm.
and and that's a big topic. But I always think about in my mind's eye, we spend so much of our lives focusing on the things that we're bad at or the things that we need to improve. And we spend a great deal of time because we love this improvement space. We want to be the best. We want to be better. That's natural. A question that's always come to my mind with that, though, is what would happen if everybody in our world spent equal, if not more, time focusing on the things that they were already good at
Right.
Mhm.
compared to the things that we knew that we needed to work on or that we weren't as good at?
Mhm.
I'm very big about acknowledging. I mean, for me in my space in Lewis, I'm sure you're the same working with a lot of young men. I remember as a teacher one time just asking a class, I was like, class, I just want you to write down 5 things that you love about yourself. And only 2 of them can be physical. And I sat up there in the front of the classroom and they could not do it. And it was so sad as a teacher to watch this kind of happen before me. When as a teacher and somebody like as a coach or a therapist or somebody that works with people on that end, it's like I could sit here right in front of you and name 15 off the rip. But you guys
Mm.
can't even name 5
Right.
about yourself. And so I'm very big about helping individuals, especially young men, to understand what their gifts are and what good is already within them and taking ample time in their day to focus on what those good things are because performance does not equal worth. I'm so glad that God never said that the worth of my soul was equal to my performance or how I act. It's I'm loved. I'm not the best, and he does not excuse bad behavior,
Yeah.
but my worth was not dictated by performance. And I think something that I'm huge about with this kind of topic about performance and identity is if your worth is always tied to something that will always fluctuate, then
Right.
your worth will always fluctuate. So if my worth is tied to performance, if I have a good game or a bad game, I'm going to have a lot of worth some days, and I'm not going to have a lot of worth some other days. And there's a lot of emotions that are going to go on and swing in between those two if my worth is tied to something that will fluctuate.
Yep.
So I'm big about helping individuals to see like your worth is not and was never intended to be tied to something that fluctuates. It's tied to God. Your worth
Mhm.
comes from him, and that doesn't change. And so if your worth is tied to something that doesn't change, you will never have a problem with anything on this end that will fluctuate. So it's my little 2 cents about trying to
Mhm.
help individuals to understand worth needs to be tied and rooted to the divine source and what doesn't change.
Yep.
But I think, Brayden, you've hit the nail on the head in terms of identity. I think that's the biggest theme out of the guys I work with. And it just comes up in so many different situations in so many different ways. But I do think that's one of the biggest things that we wrestle with as men in this era, and maybe in every era. I'm not sure, but I see that in myself as well. I think um, not having a strong sense of who we are and not knowing what our gifts are and not knowing um, not having a positive sense of self, it is such a deeply rooted source of distress for so many guys, and it stops us from loving other people properly. We can't, we're told as Christians to, love our neighbors as ourselves. If we don't actually know how to have like a loving relationship with what God's given us, we just aren't able to connect in a genuinely selfless and loving way to other people. And yeah, it's such a big theme in our time, and there's so many layers to it. But I would echo that in that it's um, something that we need to pursue as men. How do we get to that place where um, yeah, where we know who we are, we know our gifts, and we actually value and see ourselves the way God sees us, because He sees us better you know than we often do. That's yeah, that's something to wrap our heads around, I think. So
Yeah. So good.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious just to hear kind of more about the effects of like social media and your presence online, Brayden. So a lot of your audience probably sees you as, emotionally grounded and intentional. Do you find that in person, like as you're going out and about in public, that you've now had to kind of like upkeep this certain view that people have of you, or like what is navigating that like?
I find I've actually put myself in a very good spot because how I present myself online is how I am in person. And they're very, they're very similar. If not, they're the same. And that makes it very easy because I don't have to worry about
Hmm.
putting on a show outside when I meet somebody because that's just naturally just me. Like I'm a pretty chill, cool, calm, collected kind of guy. And I mean, don't get me wrong, put me in a group and some music on and like we can bust it down and we can have a good time and like I'll be high energy. But my the online presence and whatnot is pretty similar, I would say, to to the way that I am in person. Although being in person, when I do meet somebody that's, that's seen the content or whatever, it's a good reminder to me to really practice what I preach. And that's the thing that keeps me going. It's, in a way, it's my own accountability system to live true to what is being pushed out there, so that when it comes time, like I am interacting with an individual, I'm like, it keeps me in check a
Right.
lot, because I would feel very, very untrue, and I would lack a lot of integrity, and that would hurt my soul a lot to be able to have dissonance between the two. So,
Yeah.
great question, though. Great question.
So good. Yeah, I'm curious for yourself too, Lewis. Like, now just kind of studying more about psychology, and obviously you're continuously learning, with, just like learning and having your master's, but then also with every client that you have, I'm sure you have to learn new things. What is something that you potentially had to unlearn since your time studying psychology, just emotionally yourself?
Yeah. First of all, I think to your point, Brayden, I think one of your superpowers, even talking to you now, is your authenticity. And I think as men, one of the things that like, you know, I think we have to capture is how to be authentic and not performative. So I just want to put that out there. But in terms of what yeah, man, in terms of what I think I've learned since this work is, a lot of the research, a lot of the empirical research coming out over the past couple of years, in the realm of men's mental health is help seeking, and specifically how the relationship between conformity to traditional masculine norms and help seeking. That's where most of the data is. And so there's really a lot of evidence that points to, as guys, that value we place on strength and stoicism, and not, I think as men we're designed to pursue strength. That's a good thing. But when it turns into stoicism, help seeking is something that is difficult for a lot of men. And I see that in myself too. Asking for help is difficult. And so as guys, we have to find a way to make that not threatening. The process of looking for help, the process for asking for support, the process for even looking for like treatment. And I get that I'm totally biased as a therapist, talking about this. Uh, but I just, yeah, I'd put that question out there for all of us and all the men that are listening. What do we need to do as men to create a culture of men where help seeking is encouraged and normal? Because, just so many men suffer in silence because it's not acceptable for them. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's so good. I just want to tie in faith a little bit here because I'm curious, once you have faith and let's say you identify as a Christian, sometimes I find that it's hard while you're struggling emotionally to kind of like there's a little bit of guilt sometimes. Like you can just often like, oh yeah, I'm struggling in this way, but God's got it, We can kind of hide behind that faith. So I'm curious to, yeah, just hear your thoughts on that. If you see that a lot in men and how to kind of combat that, God is true and God is all powerful and he heals, but then we still live in a broken earth. And how do you kind of hold both in tension?
I think God is the perfect example of true masculinity, in that Jesus wept and he felt deeply with people, and he was not afraid to go to people and to sit with them. And his prime pinnacle moments when he's in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he's on the cross and he is feeling
Yeah.
everything.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
to all men, and everyone everywhere, but to these men that are listening especially, If you want to become more God-like, Jesus set the perfect example of what it means to
Mhm.
be masculine and to feel. That's your example. So now, if you want to say that that is weak, then you're going to have to cross a very hard double standard and then believe that about God. I do not believe that God is weak. I do not believe that he is any one of those things that we as men might fear we would become if we choose to seek for help or if we choose to feel our emotions. You become more God-like when you choose to feel and when you choose to ask for help from people that have the resources and have the training and have the expertise and are there to help you. And I cannot think of anything that's more beautiful than the example of Christ doing that. And if you are a Christian and somebody of faith that wants to become more like him, and if people somehow think that you're weird for feeling or for asking for help, just go back to the Savior and you're in very good company.
So good.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. The creator of masculinity is the ultimate example of masculinity. So I think, yeah, it's such a great practice to go through the Gospels and the scriptures to take a look at, like, yeah, who is this perfect man that we know by faith? And yeah, and the beauty of, I think, being a Christian is that we have the help of the Holy Spirit to conform
Right.
us into the image of Christ, which is the image of the perfect man. Um, and so as a principle for everyone, who we behold, who we worship is who we become.
Right.
And so if we will worship, to back to your earlier question, self-improvement, then we'll become just the rules. We'll become, a rule follower, or we'll become our routine. We'll become a shell.
Yep.
If we worship the person who created masculinity, that's the pathway to becoming, yeah, restoring design, original design. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, guys, that's awesome. Great answers. I'm just like sitting here just soaking it all in. I'm like, keep going, keep going. Okay, I have one more question for you. What is something that this is for both of you that you believed about masculinity at maybe 18 or in your teenagehood that you no longer believe now? And what advice would you give to your younger self if you were sitting here in front of him?
I would say, first and foremost, to not hesitate to look for help. Um, and then to not stop asking questions of myself and then of asking people. I think asking questions is a superpower. So asking questions of myself, asking questions of the people, and then asking questions of the Lord. So I would say that ask questions in all three directions.
That's a
Yeah, and
great
just the second part to
answer.
that question was what was something that you believed at a younger age that you no longer believe now?
Yeah, that I couldn't
That you
look for
couldn't.
help.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, couldn't.
sure. I think if I were talking with my 18-year-old self, I'd first look at him in the eyes and probably be like, you're doing okay, brother. Like you're doing better than you think that you are. I think that's something I wish I would have heard a lot more. And because I struggled with the self comparison and the how do I fall, like as men, where we're a lot of times tied to performance and strength and how do we look and measure up in front of everybody else, it's very easy to feel like that my worth is dictated again by how other people see me, by how other people think that I am this or that, or I am what I do. And I believed that. And I don't anymore. And I would tell them to, again, you're doing better than you think you are. you're okay. And to please see the gifts inside of yourself, to then use them for good and to use them for God. And that when I became so much more outward focused, that life would become so much more beautiful. And that if I would lose myself, I would find myself. If you want to find, again, that true masculinity, I think it's easy in our world of masculinity to spend a lot of time on self-improvement and self-development, as we should, right? But in the words of the Savior, the one, the true masculine, the creator, it's like, lose yourself and you'll find yourself. Right. So go out and spend more time with serving and looking out for other people, and how do I build them up? And you will find a more true, authentic, masculine version of you, the version that you were created to be.
Right. So good. Great answers, guys. Yeah, so finally, you're both making an impact in men's lives, in the men's lives that you mentor in both a local context, but then also online. And I just wanted to quickly make the connection to the work that World Vision Canada does in this area as well. You know, we're talking about the importance of healthy masculinity and emotional well-being. And many might not actually know this, but World Vision has a program called Men Care in many of the communities that we serve. And this program facilitates conversations and training around mental well-being and actually challenges harmful social norms. And this is a topic for another podcast, but we've seen this training actually empower communities as it relates to gender equality and reducing gender-based violence. And so yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys for coming on this episode with me. It's one that's very important, and I think we need to continue to talk about it because it's not talked about enough. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that for your guys' thoughts and just your time today.
Thanks, Megan. So great to meet you too, Lewis. Love all the thoughts that you shared and the great work that you're doing. So appreciate you guys, my two new Canadian friends. So
yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So good.